Welcome to the channel. Welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before getting into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with a few more Bruno quotes. You probably might have already seen them, but I'm not going to dwell too much on it. I said my piece yesterday regarding this particular interview. However, there's been more quotes and comments that have come out from that interview that he did in the last international break that have surfaced. So he said, "I want to stay at Manchester United as long as I feel desired. I would like to experience the Spanish league and fight for big titles in Italy. I have my connections to Italy. My daughter was born there. I've already thought about returning to Portugal. The first option would be Sporting, to be happy like it was with Sporting, but I don't want to ruin the image that was left. But I don't want to drag myself there. I want to add to it and even try more district football at an advanced age. You play in the district you love, you feel different. I have friends in the district." Is that like Sunday league football or like pub football or something like that, playing for your local sort of town and stuff when he gets older? So in the same interview, Bruno Fernandes himself says that he wants to stay at Manchester United as long as he feels desired, but that he also wants to play in Spain, Italy, Portugal. So which one is it? I don't know. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, it's just a weird interview from Bruno Fernandes. The more I think about it, the more it feels like he's maybe setting things up to maybe have a summer exit. That's what it feels like. The more, and that's just my personal feelings. That's not factual or anything like that. That's how it's coming across to me, that maybe he's setting himself up for potentially a summer exit and trying to like save face and say that, and effectively I think pin it on the club to say, well, they wanted to sell me, so I've left. And that's how it feels to me anyway, because it says as long as I feel desired, but the club have put statements out saying that they've told Bruno that they wanted to keep him, but if he wanted to go, you can go. It's like, I don't know, maybe he didn't get the reaction that he felt he deserved from the club when all that Saudi stuff happened in the summer. But then on the same interview he did yesterday, he was also saying he was going to leave the year before. So I don't know, I'm just confused by the whole situation. But they're the latest comments. Bruno wants to stay at United as long as he feels desired, but also wants to play in Spain, Italy, and go back to Sporting, and then play local football when he gets a little bit older as well. So there you go. You can tell me what you think regarding that in the comments below. Right, let's go through the transfer news. So this came out yesterday from interesting piece from Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail, saying that Man United confidential, so we can reveal the midfield fire sale and 6 names on shortlist to replace them. Latest on Semenyo move. Bruno's release clause. I'm not going to go through that because I don't want to spend too much time on the Bruno stuff, but let's go for the midfield situation, which is obviously the hot topic at United since the summer, and it was announced that we want to go for midfielders. Who would have thought that we've been linked to 33 midfielders? There was an article I saw yesterday that was basically ranking the 33 midfielders that United have been linked with. So I said yesterday's video that we must be in the mid-30s by now of players that we're linked with. 33 in an article I saw yesterday. But anyway, going back to Chris Wheeler's piece, Man United are ready to break up their entire midfield at the end of the season, with Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Kobbie Mainoo and Manuel Ugarte all facing an uncertain future at United. The Saudi Pro League could still be an option for Fernandes, in regular contact with Cristiano Ronaldo and his old Sporting Lisbon coach, Jorge Jesus. Now both at Al Nassr, who made a bid for him in the summer. The 31-year-old has a clause in his contract that means clubs outside the Premier League can buy him for £56.6 million, around half of what the Saudis were prepared to pay. United insisted on Monday they have no intention whatsoever to sell Fernandes, but they are known to have drawn up a contingency plan last summer in the event of him leaving Old Trafford for a club record transfer fee, beating Ronaldo's 80 million move to Real Madrid in 2009. So obviously with the situation on Bruno I think we'd have to just wait and see what happens in this summer. But it's not beyond the realms of impossibility, going off of his recent comments and stuff, for me, that potentially he might look to go in the summer. The Casemiro situation is, I'm not going to go through it. He's the highest earner. He's out of contract in the summer. There's no sign at the moment that United are willing to trigger we're not going to do the 1-year extension. There might still be an opportunity to maybe keep Casemiro, but it would have to be a new contract on release on lower wages. But it says that the MLS in the US is emerging as the most likely destination for the former Real Madrid man, who cost £70 million when he arrived from the Bernabeu on a 4-year deal in 2022. And then on Ugarte, It goes on to say that Casemiro is being selected to Ugarte, who has struggled to justify his £50 million transfer fee since moving from Paris Saint-Germain last summer. The Uruguayan has made just 2 Premier League starts this season and couldn't even make it off the bench for Monday's 4-4 draw with Bournemouth at Old Trafford, although he is likely to play at Aston Villa on Sunday when Casemiro will be missing through suspension. Ugarte is believed to be generating significant interest from Turkey and would be prepared to cut their losses if they can recoup enough of his fee. Fellow Ineos club Nice of League One are also in contention to sign the 24-year-old, but he is reluctant to move there. So Chris Wheeler confirming the reports that have been coming out over the last few weeks around Ugarte potentially being of interest to Galatasaray, I think it was, in Turkey, and also the report that I brought to you yesterday, potentially going to Nice, although he's not overly keen on going to Nice. But while that seems a little bit far, and the Mainu one, we know about Mainu. I don't think I need to reiterate what's already been put out there. Regarding Mainu, we know the situation there. He wants to go out on loan. He might not get to go out on loan. That might, the relationship might deteriorate, and then we'll just see where we are in the summer regarding Mainu. I don't think there's anything more to report from that situation or anything that you need to be aware of because, it's been widely documented, the Mainu stuff. But then it goes on to say the situation could again hinge on United signing a midfielder with Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, Conor Gallagher, Carlos Baleba, Tyler Adams, and João Gomez among the players who have been discussed. So Chris Wheeler is saying that they're the 6 main names for the midfield. But as I mentioned earlier, there's 33 on the midfielders that we have been linked with since the summer. There's probably more than that as well because there's some absolute garbage that comes from, for Charhez and places like that. That's not including those, garbage reports about Jude Bellingham and people like that. I don't think neither as well. I think that's actually like the more I'm not going to say genuine, the more likely ones, the realistic ones, I would say. And then it goes on to say United remain adamant they won't make any panic buys in January and will only sign a player if it's a deal that can be bought forward from the summer. So that's the stance, isn't it, on midfielders, that maybe we're only looking at opportunities, isn't it? And that's where we're getting all the Semenyo noise as well regarding, could be an opportunity because of his release clause and if other teams go for him and stuff. And we'll go through the Semenyo news in a second. And while it seems like a little bit excessive, I think, from that piece, it's not beyond the realms of impossibility, though, is it? Because Casemiro's out of contract. Bruno Fernandes, we might get an offer for we have to accept. He's got a release clause as well, so we might actually be powerless to stop Bruno Fernandes going in the summer anyway, if we wanted to keep him. The Mainu situation is one that we need to pay attention to between now and maybe the end of January and see what happens regarding that. And then Ugarte's, been pretty bad for a very long time as well. And it makes sense that the club would want to move him on as well, unless his form can pick up. And with Casemiro being suspended, he puts in an absolute belter against Villa and works his way back into the first team. But, we'll have to wait and see if that comes up. So it's not actually beyond the realms of him, we could be looking at a position where all of our midfielders go in the summer, and then we're needing 3 to bring in, maybe 4. But then we've got a Roscoe, Kone. Would they be added to that as well? So you can see why it's a big why there's a lot of question marks around the budget and finances and stuff like that as well. Because it could be. I think I would personally keep Mainu still because I think he's young enough and he can develop, and hopefully we've got more game time for him next season to play some minutes and not be feeling left out or whatever. And then maybe 3, and then you've got Kone, Orozco, players like that coming in as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Now, another name that's already on the list of players that we're linked with, if we stick with the midfield, Carlos Baleba. Let's go through that first. So Fabrizio Romano has said, look, if there's a player Manchester United put on the top of their list, for sure it's Carlos Baleba. Baleba is a player they absolutely love. Anderson and Wharton are on the list, but Baleba has always been seen as the top target for Ruben Amorim. So that's interesting because the narrative going around from Andy Mitten and places like that is that Anderson's maybe seen as the preferred target for midfield. Romano saying he's now top of the list, so he's top of the Christmas tree ahead of Christmas. Carlos Baleba. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't come as a surprise that we're looking at Carlos Baleba, but does that put him now as the favourite? We've already agreed stuff with him, personal terms and all of that things. We know he wants to come even without European football. Some of where like our other targets, like the narrative on Adam Wharton is that he might want to go to a Champions League club, and question marks whether we're good enough to finish in the Champions League places this season. Could be Europa League. Would that affect Anderson as well? But I don't think it'll impact Carlos Baleba because he was happy to come in the summer without European football as well. So it stands to reason that maybe they're going to go back in for that deal, which I still think has a little bit of a red flag regarding it, because the player himself has come out with these comments saying that so when he was asked whether speculation about a move to Man United affected his form, he said, I don't think it affected me, but I had a lot of pressure on me when I started the season. I wanted to have the same performances as last season. Every day I try to work hard and get back to my level. Did I put too much pressure on myself? Yes, I think so, but I think that's good. So effectively saying that the speculation didn't necessarily put any pressure on him, but he put pressure on himself to perform and show that actually he is worthy of going, and he's worth the £100 million that was being banded around at the time. But that is a red flag for me, the attitude, and because the pressure at United is so big, because we've got such a large fan base that we're all reactionary to good performances and bad performances. We're probably overreactionary to bad performances and stuff. And it's a lot of pressure to handle at United, because if you have a couple of bad games, you're going to be all over the media, all over social media, and that worries me. He's a young player, but on the flip side, maybe he'll learn from this. Maybe he's been through, because all players, young players, I think, go through a moment of adversity in their careers. Like I think everyone in life generally goes through a moment when you're young and you're growing and you're developing, where life just absolutely feels like it's flipped upside down on you. And then hopefully you can come out from that and learn from it and, get better or improve or do whatever going forward. And maybe he'll learn this season, and it will not affect him next season if we do go for him. But who knows? But according to Romano, top of the list is Carlos Baleba now, but he's on the list of the main three anyway, isn't he? Baleba, Anderson, and Wharton, and it'd just be a case, I think, of who we can get, the price, the competition, what competition we're in, European football, and all of that jazz in the summer. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments. Now, there's been another midfielder that's come out of not of the woodwork. He is a player that we have been linked with before, but Neves. So let's go through this. So Man United Newcastle hold talks over 63-time cap Portugal star as intermediaries broke a sensational January deal. So this is coming from Graham Bailey, who is hit and miss. So we do need to, I would say, pinch of salt required to start with, but sometimes this story could develop, it could just disappear, so we'll pay attention to it. However, in the report saying Al Hilal are ready to sell Ruben Neves back to Europe in January as they struggle to tie him down to a new contract, and with sources confirming that several Premier League clubs, including Manchester United and Newcastle, have already spoken to intermediaries over a potential deal. Now, we have been linked with Neves a few times, so there might be something in this. It goes on to say in the report, off the back of that, we understand that Neves' camp has spoken to a number of clubs back in Europe to gauge potential interest, and we understand that plenty of clubs are showing early willingness to look into a deal. The 28-year-old is now considering his options and has made it clear to his agents that he is open to a move in January. Off the back of that, we can reveal that Manchester United, Tottenham and Newcastle are all long-term admirers of Neves, have been spoken to. So he's confirming that we've been... that through intermediaries, maybe we have had a conversation with his agent and staff around a possible move. Goes on to say it's believed that intermediaries have told interested parties that a move in January is possible, but that is likely to have to be a permanent deal given his contract expires with Al Hilal next summer. So that's an interesting one, because again, the narrative around transfers and midfielders and stuff is availability in January, not necessarily funds, although I don't know whether we would have £100 million to go for like Anderson and stuff. But the narrative in the media and stuff is that it's not necessarily a question of funds, it's a question of availability. Now, if Neves has become available in January, and if he's on the shortlist anyway of potential targets that we would go for, he is a little bit outside of the age that we're believed to be going for. 27 is the sort of limit, isn't it, that's been doing the rounds. He's 28 years old, but Premier League proven, definitely ticks a lot of the boxes as well. I think would be an upgrade on our midfield as well. And if he is an opportunity and it becomes available in January, give us your thoughts, what you're thinking regarding that. Do you think that would be a good shout or a bad shout? Get involved in the comments below. Let me know. Let me know how you feel regarding potentially Neves in January, if that report is to be believed. Now, the other player that was mentioned in going back to Chris Wheeler's article was Semenyo. So he's said on the Semenyo deal that Amram described Antoine Semenyo as a special player before United faced Bournemouth, and his performance in an incredible 4 draw at Old Trafford Monday night only enhanced his reputation. It is well known that Semenyo has a £60.5 million release clause in January, which drops to around £50 million in the summer, and United are one of a number of admirers when club sources talk about fast-tracking a transfer to sign a target 6 months early. Semenyo falls into that category. So Chris Wheeler confirming this sort of, because there was quite a lot of other journalists that was pretty much saying the same thing yesterday. Miguel Delaney from The Independent, I think TalkSport was another one, Sky Sports as well. Now Chris Wheeler, all saying the same thing, is that this could be an opportunity that United go for, because he's a player that we would look at in the summer anyway, but because of that release clause. And I think £65 million as a release clause, I actually still think is under what Semenyo is probably valued at as well, because normally January is a window where you're going to overpay for players, but I actually think £60 million or 65 million, whatever the sort of reported figure is for his release clause, you're still getting a good player less than I think what his market value should be anyway, especially for this time of year. But it goes on to say one of the ways that we could potentially fund the deal is by selling Joshua Zirkzee. So selling Zirkzee is one option. The Dutchman is wanted on loan by Roma, and United have included could include an obligation to buy as part of the package, similar to the £38 million clause in Rasmus Højlund's move to Napoli. Unfortunately for Tyler Adams, the Bournemouth midfielder was unable to make his impression like Semenyo after he limped off at the early stages. Just so because Tyler Adams was another player that was potentially on a bit of an audition, wasn't he, against us, but got injured, and it is what it is regarding that. So one of the ways Chris Wheeler is saying that we could look to fund a January move for Semenyo would be to sell Joshua Zirkzee or do a loan with an obligation to buy, because then we can write it off from a PSR perspective. An option to buy doesn't help us at all get the money in order to sort of do that and to get the finances in. So that's one to pay attention to, but that would need to be done quite quickly because the Semenyo's release clause is only valid for the first 10 days of January. And as we've been saying, the reports have been that we want to try and keep Zirkzee towards the end of January because of AFCON, but Semenyo is a copy and paste player that I think you could bring into the first team straight away that would need relatively low integration because he's a Premier League proven player. He's playing Premier League. We literally played him on Monday night, so he doesn't need to be introduced into the Premier League and bedded in. Yes, he'll need to be introduced into the team and the tactics and stuff, but you can do that. You can speed that. You can accelerate that process up. That's why we want to look at going for Premier League proven players, because they don't need that bedding in sort of period as well. But now on Zirkzee, there's been reports from Italy saying the deal for Joshua Zirkzee to Roma could now be progressing. Roma sporting director Ricky Massara had meetings with Manchester United in London on Friday and Saturday. Talks were also held with Zirkzee's entourage. The Italian club's strategy is now clear. They initially want to reach an agreement over personal terms with the 24-year-old and postpone agent commissions until the summer. It did say in the report as well that they're looking at a €6 to €5 million loan fee as well, with an obligation to buy. So that's one to pay attention to. I'd still want to see. I want to see a bit more credibility. It's coming from Corriere dello Sport, Italian media, but over the last couple of days, there's been a few more murmurings regarding this potentially being plausible, about Zirkzee going to Roma, and then if we get that money in or we get that obligation to buy to Roma, potentially then making a move for Semenyo, that makes sense to me as possible. Whether we're going to do it or not, entirely different conversation. I have no idea. I don't have I'm not an insider. I don't know United's transfer strategy, and I can't see in the future either. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. And let's go for another name that we've been linked with. It says for a summer deal, though, it's coming from Sport Build, saying that Tottenham and Manchester United have both made approaches for Said El Mala. Colin are expected to wait until next summer to sell him for 50 to 60 million euros or more. Manchester United and Tottenham have asked Colin of their willingness to negotiate for the player. The two English clubs have also indicated they are willing to offer around 30 to 40 million euros. El Mala has already ruled out a winter move, but could change clubs next summer. So potentially another winger or attacker that we're looking to go for. And I do think we need some rotation options, and especially if we're in Europe as well. I do think that there's I know Amram's been criticised for his lack of attacking substitutions recently. I've done it as well. I agree, but when you take a step back, there are limited attacking options to bring off the bench, or there have been in some games, and especially so actually having somebody that's got pace and is quite direct, like he's not a passing Not someone that he is particularly great on the ball, but he is somebody that looks very good in terms of like running and attacking and dribbling and that sort of type of player, which I think we actually miss. With someone like that to come off the bench or rotate around that can, install a bit of fear into teams, especially tired defenses. So he's 14 appearances, 6 goals, 2 assists this season in the Bundesliga. Look, he's in the top 99 for goals and expected goals as well, top 98 for expected assists. Not a passer. That's what I mentioned there. Not somebody that is very technical on the ball, I would say, but top 96 for take-ons, gets in the area as well, top 94, and decent defensive stats as well. So an interesting profile of player. Does say summer move though, so we'll have to wait and see what happens regarding that, and I suppose it will depend on what competition we're in. If we go for Semenyo, will he be the rotation for the front? Like, there's a lot of things that are in play regarding that, and but yeah, interesting name. Give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. So overall, Bruno wants to stay at United, but also wants to play in Spain, Italy, and Sporting, and play, Sunday League football when he gets a little bit older. Carlos Baleba is top of the Christmas charts for midfield options. There are some reports that potentially Neves could be a January option. So if the opportunity arrives, would United make a move for Neves? I'd want to see a bit more credibility regarding that. More noise regarding Semenyo as well. Fabrizio Romano actually on that has come out saying that I forgot to go through this. Man United loves Semenyo. Amram loves him also. He had direct contact with him last summer, but United already invested big money in that position with Cunha and Mbumo. So at the moment, nothing concrete yet. So Romano saying, look, we love Antoine Semenyo, but there's not quite anything concrete yet. So that's one that we'll pay attention to, because more reports of potentially Zirkzee going to Roma. If that happens, that'll free up the squad space and maybe the money to go for Semenyo if we want to do that. Links with El Mala, but that'll be for a summer deal anyway. So, but get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think regarding all of today's Man United news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.